The alarm clock buzzed at exactly 6:30 in the morning at Kensington Palace. William reached over to turn it off while Kate was already sitting up in bed, staring out the window at the grey London sky. She had been awake for the past hour, unable to sleep because of the strange feeling in her chest. Something felt different about this Tuesday morning. Though she could not put her finger on what it was, Kate walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. When she looked in the mirror, she noticed the dark circles under her eyes. She had been having the same dream for 3 nights in a row. In the dream, she was walking through endless hospital corridors, hearing children crying but never being able to find them. Each time she woke up with tears on her cheeks, but she had not told William about it. William was already dressed in his navy blue suit when Kate came out of the bathroom. He was checking his phone and reading the schedule for the day. They had a visit to St. Mary's Children's Hospital at 10 o'clock, followed by a lunch with hospital donors and then a meeting with the hospital board. It was supposed to be a simple day of royal duties, the kind they had done hundreds of times before. Kate chose a soft blue dress from her wardrobe, one that she always wore when visiting hospitals. The color was calming and the fabric was comfortable, enough for her to kneel down and play with children. She was putting on her pearl earrings. William noticed she was moving slower than usual. "Are you feeling all right this morning?" William asked, walking over to where she stood at the dressing table. Kate looked at him through the mirror and forced a smile. "Just a bit tired. I did not sleep well last night." William knew his wife well enough to recognize when something was bothering her. They had been married for over 10 years, and he could read her moods like pages in a book. But Kate was also stubborn about not wanting to worry him, especially on days when they had important work to do. They went downstairs to the dining room where breakfast was waiting. The cook had prepared Kate's favorite porridge with fresh berries and honey, along with William's usual eggs and toast. The morning newspaper was folded neatly beside William's plate, showing headlines about economic troubles and political debates. Kate stirred her porridge but barely ate any of it. She kept looking out the window at the palace gardens, where the gardeners were trimming the rose bushes. Red roses reminded her of something, but she could not remember what. "The hospital visit today should be nice," William said, trying to start a conversation. "Dr. Morrison said they have some special children who are very excited to meet us." Kate nodded, but did not say anything. She was thinking about the dream again, about those crying children she could never find. She wondered if it meant something, or if it was just her mind playing tricks on her. Their personal assistant, James, came into the dining room with a folder of papers. He explained the schedule once more and mentioned that the media would be there to take photographs. Kate and William were used to cameras following them everywhere, but today the thought of being watched made Kate feel uncomfortable. "The children's cancer ward will be our first stop," James continued. "Then we will visit the general pediatric ward and finally the special care unit. Dr. Morrison emphasized that some of the children are very sick, so we should be prepared." William noticed Kate's hand shake slightly as she reached for her teacup. He reached across the table and touched her hand gently. "We can change the schedule if you need to," he whispered so James could not hear. Kate shook her head quickly. "No, these children are expecting us. We cannot disappoint them." After breakfast, they walked to the car that was waiting outside. The driver held the door open for them, and they settled into the back seat. Kate's usual chatter was missing, and William found himself looking at her with growing concern as they drove through the busy London streets. Kate watched people walking to work, children walking to school, and mothers pushing prams. Everyone looked so normal, so happy, so unaware of the pain that existed in the world. She wondered how many of these people had ever seen a sick child fighting for their life. "Kate, what is really bothering you?" William asked softly. Kate turned to look at him, and for a moment she wanted to tell him about the dreams, about the strange feeling in her chest, about how she had been thinking about their own children, more than usual, but instead she just said, "I think I'm just nervous about today." Sometimes these hospital visits can be overwhelming. William understood. They had both seen things during their royal duties that stayed with them long after. They went home, sick children, grieving families, situations that reminded them how fragile life really was. But they had learned to push those feelings aside and focus on bringing joy and hope to the people they met. The car turned onto the street where the hospital was located. Kate could see the building in the distance, with its white walls and big windows. There were photographers already waiting outside, and hospital staff members were standing by the entrance. "Remember," William said, taking her hand, "we are here to bring smiles to these children. Whatever happens, we will face it together." Kate squeezed his hand and nodded. She took a deep breath and tried to push away the nervous feeling that had been following her all morning as the car pulled up to the hospital entrance. She put on her public smile and prepared to meet the children who were waiting for them. But deep down, she knew that something about this day was going to be different. She could feel it in her bones, in the way her heart was beating faster than usual, in the way her hands would not stop trembling. As they stepped out of the car and walked toward the hospital doors, Kate said a silent prayer that she would be strong enough for whatever was waiting for them inside. The hospital doors opened with a soft whoosh, and Kate felt a wave of antiseptic smell mixed with something else she could not identify. It was the smell of hope and fear combined, the smell of a place where miracles and heartbreak happened every single day. The lobby was brighter than she expected, with colorful artwork on the walls and a large fish tank that immediately caught her. Attention, Dr. Sarah Morrison was waiting for them just inside the entrance. She was a woman in her early 50s, with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. She had been the head of pediatric medicine at St. Mary's for 15 years, and she had seen more than her share of suffering, but she also had a warm smile that made both William and Kate feel instantly welcome. "Your Royal Highnesses, welcome to St. Mary's Children's Hospital," Dr. Morrison said with a slight bow. "We are so honored to have you here today. The children have been talking about nothing else for weeks." Kate shook the doctor's hand and noticed how gentle her grip was. These were hands that had comforted countless children and families through their darkest moments. William thanked Dr. Morrison for arranging the visit and asked about the children they would be meeting. "We have prepared a route that will take you through 3 different wards," Dr. Morrison explained as they walked down the main hallway. "Each ward has its own special character, and the children range in age from 3 to 16. Some are here for short stays, others have been with us for many months." The hallway was decorated with hundreds of drawings made by the children. Kate stopped to look at a picture of a rainbow with the words, "Thank you for making me feel better," written in crayon below it. She touched the paper gently, imagining the small hand that had created this artwork. "The children love to draw," Dr. Morrison said, noticing Kate's interest. "Art therapy is a big part of our healing process here. It helps them express feelings they sometimes cannot put into words." They passed a playroom where several children were sitting around a table with a volunteer reader. The woman was reading a story about a brave knight who saved a kingdom, and the children were listening with wide eyes. One little boy was connected to an IV pole, but he was leaning forward with excitement as the story reached its climax. "That is Mrs. Henderson," Dr. Morrison whispered. "She has been volunteering here for 20 years. The children call her Grandma. Hen because she always brings them homemade cookies on Fridays." Kate smiled, thinking about how important these small acts of kindness must be to children who spent their days surrounded by medical equipment and procedures. They entered their first ward, the general pediatric unit. The rooms were painted in soft pastels, with cartoon characters on the walls and mobiles hanging from the ceiling. Kate could hear the sound of children's laughter coming from one of the rooms. Mixed with the steady beeping of monitors, their first stop was to meet Tommy, a 5-year-old boy who had been in the hospital for 2 weeks after a serious accident. His leg was in a cast, and he was propped up in bed with pillows. When he saw William and Kate enter his room, his face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Are you really a prince and princess?" Tommy asked, his eyes wide with wonder. William laughed and sat down in the chair beside Tommy's bed. "I am a prince, and Kate is a duchess. That is almost like a princess." Tommy nodded seriously as if this was very important information. "My mom told me that princes and princesses help people." "Are you here to help me get better?" Kate felt her throat tighten at the innocent question. She sat on the edge of Tommy's bed and took his small hand in hers. "We are here to visit with you and make you smile. But the doctors and nurses are the real heroes who help you get better." Tommy showed them his collection of toy cars, which were arranged in a neat line on his bedside table. He explained that each car had a special power, like going super fast or flying through the air. Kate listened to every word, asking questions and admiring each car as if it were the most amazing thing she had ever seen. In the next room, they met Sarah, a 9-year-old girl who had been born with a heart condition. She had undergone several surgeries and would need more in the future. Despite everything she had been through, Sarah was working on a puzzle when they arrived. "I love puzzles," Sarah told Kate. "They help me think about something else, besides being sick." Kate knelt down beside Sarah's bed and helped her find pieces. For the puzzle, there was a picture of a beautiful garden with flowers and butterflies. As they worked together, Sarah talked about her dreams of becoming a teacher when she grew up. "I want to teach other children who are sick," Sarah said. "I want to show them that they can still learn and have fun even when they are in the hospital." William was moved by Sarah's determination. Here was a child who had every reason to be angry or sad, but instead she was thinking about how she could help others. He made a mental note to ask Dr. Morrison about supporting the hospital's educational programs. As they moved through the ward, Kate and William met more children. There was Marcus, a teenager who was recovering from surgery and teaching himself to play guitar. There was little Amy, who was 3 years old and had been in the hospital so long that she called the nurses her aunties. Each child had a story, a dream, a personality that shone through despite their illness. By the time they finished their tour of the first ward, Kate felt emotionally drained. These children were so brave, so full of hope despite everything they were facing. She thought about her own children at home, healthy and happy, and felt a deep sense of gratitude mixed with guilt. Dr. Morrison led them toward the second ward, explaining that this one would be different. "The children here are facing more serious challenges," she said gently, "but they are just as eager to meet you." Kate took a deep breath and squeezed William's hand. She knew that the hardest part of their visit was still ahead of them. The walk down the hallway to the pediatric cancer ward felt longer than it actually was. Kate could feel her heart beating faster with each step, and she noticed that the decorations on the walls had changed. Instead of bright cartoon characters, there were softer paintings of clouds and gentle animals. The lighting was dimmer here, more peaceful, as if the hospital designers understood that these children needed a different kind of comfort. Dr. Morrison slowed her pace as they approached the double doors marked Oncology Unit. She turned to face William and Kate with a serious expression on her face. "The children in this ward are fighting cancer," she said quietly. "Some of them have been here for months. Others are just beginning their treatment. They may look different than what you expect, but I promise you, their spirits are stronger than you can imagine." Kate felt that familiar tightness in her chest. Again, the same feeling she had been carrying all morning. She thought about her dreams of lost children crying in hospital corridors, and suddenly she understood what her mind had been trying to tell her. The doors opened to reveal a ward that looked more like a comfortable living room than a hospital. There were soft couches, bookshelves filled with stories, and large windows that let in natural light. But what struck Kate immediately was how quiet it was. The children here moved more slowly, spoke more softly, as if they were saving their energy for the most important moments. Their first stop was to meet Emma, a 7-year-old girl who had been battling leukemia for 2 years. Emma was sitting in a chair by the window, wearing a bright pink headscarf that covered her bald head. She was carefully arranging a small bouquet of white daisies in a plastic cup, making sure each flower was perfectly placed. When Emma saw Kate and William approaching, she stood up slowly and gave them a shy smile. Her face was pale and thin, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "I picked these flowers from the hospital garden this morning," Emma said, holding out the small bouquet. "I wanted to give them to you because my mom says you help people, and I wanted to help you too." Kate knelt down to Emma's level and accepted the flowers with trembling hands. The gesture was so simple, yet so pure, that Kate felt tears forming in her eyes. Here was a child who had every reason to feel sorry for herself, but instead she was giving gifts to others. "These are the most beautiful flowers I have ever received," Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you so much, Emma. They are perfect." Emma beamed with pride and invited Kate to sit with her by the window. As they talked, Emma explained that she had been in the hospital for so long that she considered the nurses to be her best friends. She showed Kate her collection of get-well cards from children all over the world, and she read some of them out loud in her small, sweet voice. "This one is from a girl in Australia," Emma said, holding up a card with a drawing of a kangaroo. "She says she prays for me every night before bed. I do not know what she looks like, but I think about her too." William sat down on the other side of Emma and listened as she talked about her dreams of becoming a veterinarian when she grew up. She wanted to take care of animals the same way the doctors were taking care of her. "Sometimes I practice on my stuffed animals," Emma said, showing them a worn teddy bear. "This is Mr. Buttons. He has had 3 surgeries already, and he is doing much better now." Kate held Mr. Buttons and admired the careful bandages that Emma had wrapped around his arm. The dedication and care that this little girl put into playing. Doctor showed how much she had learned about healing and hope as they prepared to leave Emma's room. She reached into her bedside drawer and pulled out a small envelope. "I wrote you a letter," she said, handing it to Kate. "You can read it later when you get home." Kate tucked the letter carefully into her purse, knowing that it would become one of her most treasured possessions. Their next visit was to see David, a 10-year-old boy who was undergoing chemotherapy treatment. David was sitting up in bed, working on a complex jigsaw puzzle that covered his entire bedside table. He looked up when they entered and gave them a weak but genuine smile. "I am trying to finish this puzzle before my next treatment," David explained. "It is a picture of the solar system, and I have been working on it for 3 weeks." William was impressed by the boy's focus and determination. The puzzle had over 1,000 pieces, and David had organized them by color and pattern with the precision of a scientist. "I want to be an astronaut when I grow up," David said as he carefully placed a piece representing Saturn's rings. "I know it might be hard because of my illness, but my dad says that dreams are worth fighting for." Kate watched David's thin fingers work the puzzle pieces with incredible patience. Despite the 4-line in his arm and the fatigue that was clearly weighing on him, he continued to work with quiet determination. "My little sister visits me every day after school," David continued. "She helps me with the puzzle, but she always wants to put the pieces in the wrong places. Makes me laugh." As they talked with David, Kate noticed how he never complained about his treatment or expressed fear about his illness. Instead, he talked about his family, his dreams, and his plans for the future. His courage was both inspiring and heartbreaking. When it was time to move on to the next room, David gave them each a small puzzle piece as a keepsake. "These are extra pieces from other puzzles," he said. "Keep them to remember that every piece is important, even when you cannot see the whole picture." Yet Kate and William left David's room feeling emotionally overwhelmed. These children were teaching them lessons about courage, hope, the power of human spirit that no royal training could have prepared them for. Dr. Morrison led them toward the next room, where they would meet more young patients. With each step, Kate felt the weight of these children's stories settling into her heart. Knowing that she would carry their faces and their words with her for the rest of her life. The next room they entered was different from the others. It was quieter, with softer lighting and more medical equipment. Kate could hear the gentle hum of machines and the soft beeping of monitors. Dr. Morrison explained that this room housed children who needed more intensive care, children whose battles with cancer had become more difficult. In the corner bed near the window sat Michael, a 12-year-old boy who looked much older than his years. His head was completely bald from chemotherapy, and his thin frame was almost lost in the hospital bed. But what struck Kate immediately was not his appearance, but the focused concentration on his face as he worked on something spread across his bedside table. "Michael has been with us for 8 months now," Dr. Morrison whispered as they approached his bed. "He lost both his parents in a car accident last year, and his grandmother is his only family now. Despite everything he has been through, he never stops creating art." As they got closer, Kate could see that Michael was working on a detailed drawing. He was using colored pencils to carefully shade and blend colors on a large piece of paper. His hands moved with surprising steadiness despite the IV line attached to his arm. "Hello, Michael," William said gently. "We heard you are quite an artist." Michael looked up from his drawing and gave them a shy smile. "I am drawing something special," he said quietly. "I have been working on it for 3 weeks. ever since I heard you were coming to visit. Kate moved closer to see the drawing, and what she saw took her breath away. It was a detailed portrait of the royal family, but not just any portrait. Michael had drawn William and Kate surrounded by children of all ages, all holding hands in a circle. The children in the drawing were clearly meant to be hospital patients, some with bandages, some with 4 poles, some in wheelchairs, but all of them were smiling. "This is incredible," Kate said, her voice filled with genuine amazement. "Michael, this is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen." Michael's face lit up with pride. "I wanted to show that even though we are sick, we can still be happy when people care about us. I drew you and Prince William in the middle because you came to visit us, and that makes us feel important." At the bottom of the drawing, Michael had written in careful handwriting, "Thank you for caring about us. We may be sick, but we are still kids who have dreams." William leaned over to get a better look at the artwork. He was amazed by the detail and the emotion that Michael had captured. In his drawing, every face was unique. Every expression was full of hope and joy. "Michael, would you mind if I asked you about your technique?" William said. "How did you learn to draw so well?" Michael's eyes brightened at the question. "My mom taught me before. She died. She was an art teacher, and she always said that drawing was a way to put your feelings on paper when words were not enough." Kate felt her chest tighten as she listened to Michael talk about his mother. This boy had lost so much, yet he was still finding ways to create beauty and spread joy to others. "My grandmother brings me new pencils every week," Michael continued. "She says that art keeps my mother's spirit alive. Sometimes when I am drawing, I can almost feel her sitting next to me, guiding my hand." Michael carefully rolled up his drawing and presented it to Kate and William. "I want you to have this," he said. "I hope that when you look at it, you will remember all of us here at the hospital." Kate accepted the drawing with trembling hands. She could feel tears forming in her eyes as she looked at this generous gift from a boy who had already lost so much. "Michael, this is the most precious gift anyone has ever given me," Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I promise you that I will treasure it always." As they prepared to leave Michael's room, he called out to them one more time. "Will you really remember us when you go home to your palace?" William walked back to Michael's bedside and placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Michael, I want you to know that meeting you today has changed me. I will never forget your kindness, your talent, or your courage. You and all the children here will be in my thoughts and prayers every single day." Michael smiled and nodded, then picked up his pencils and began working on a new drawing. As they left his room, Kate clutched the rolled-up artwork against her chest like it was the most valuable treasure in the world. In the hallway, Dr. Morrison noticed that both Kate and William were struggling with their emotions. "I know this is difficult," she said softly. "These children have a way of touching hearts in ways that nothing else can." Kate wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "How do you do this every day?" she asked Dr. Morrison. "How do you work with these children and not break down from the sadness of it all?" Dr. Morrison smiled with understanding. "Because for every moment of sadness, there are 10 moments of joy. These children teach us about courage, about hope, about finding happiness in the smallest things. They remind us what is truly important in life." As they walked toward the next room, Kate found herself thinking about her own children at home. She thought about their complaints when they had to clean their rooms, their tears when they scraped, their knees, their demands for new toys and treats. She realized how different life looked when you met children who were fighting just to live another day. "The next patient we are going to meet is very special," Dr. Morrison said as they approached another room. "Her name is Lisa, and she has been here for almost a year. She has touched the hearts of everyone who works here." William and Kate exchanged a look, both wondering if they had the emotional strength to meet another brave child. But they knew that these children deserved their attention, their care, and their respect. No matter how difficult it was to witness their struggles, the emotional weight of their hospital visit was becoming almost unbearable as Dr. Morrison led them deeper into the cancer ward. Kate could feel her professional composure slipping with each child they met, each story they heard, each brave smile they witnessed. William noticed his wife's hands shaking slightly as she walked beside him. He gently took her arm to steady her. They had been in the hospital for over 2 hours now. Both Kate and William were struggling to maintain the cheerful demeanor that was expected of them during royal visits. The children they had met were so courageous, so full of hope, despite their terrible circumstances, that it made their own problems seem insignificant. "Before we move to the final ward," Dr. Morrison said, stopping in the hallway, "I want to prepare you for what you are about to see. The next area is our intensive care unit for the most critically ill children. These are the children who are fighting the hardest battles, and their families have been told to prepare for the worst." Kate felt her knees go weak at those words. She had been dreading this moment since they arrived at the hospital, sensing somehow that this was where her strange dreams and anxious feelings had been leading her. "The children in this unit may not be able to talk much," Dr. Morrison continued, "but they are still very much aware of what is happening around them. Your presence here will mean everything to them and their families." William squeezed Kate's hand as they approached the double doors that led to the intensive care unit. Above the doors was a sign that read "Quiet Zone, Children Sleeping and Healing." Kate took a deep breath and tried to prepare herself for whatever was waiting beyond those doors. The intensive care unit was unlike anything they had seen so far. The rooms were smaller, filled with more medical equipment, and there were more nurses and doctors moving quietly between the beds. The lighting was dimmer here, and Kate could hear the constant sound of machines breathing for children who could not breathe on their own. "We will start with Lisa," Dr. Morrison said softly. "She is 14 years old and has been battling a rare form of cancer for the past 18 months. She has been in intensive care for 3 weeks now, but she specifically asked to meet you. If you ever came to visit..." They entered Lisa's room to find a thin girl with no hair, lying still in a bed, surrounded by machines. Her eyes were closed, but when she heard their footsteps, she opened them slowly and gave them the weakest smile Kate had ever seen. "I knew you would come," Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of the machines. "I have been waiting for you." Kate immediately went to Lisa's bedside and gently took her hand. The girl's skin was cold and paper-thin, but Kate could feel the faint squeeze of her fingers. "We are so glad to meet you, Lisa," Kate said, her voice thick with emotion. "Dr. Morrison told us you are very special." Lisa's mother was sitting in a chair beside the bed, and Kate could see that the woman had been crying. She looked exhausted, as if she had not slept in weeks. "Lisa has been talking about meeting you for months," her mother said quietly. "Even when she was too sick to eat or drink, she would ask me if the prince and princess were coming to visit." Lisa turned her head slightly to look at William, who had pulled up a chair on the other side of her bed. "Are you really a prince?" she asked in her tiny voice. "Yes, I am," William said, his own voice beginning to crack with emotion. "And I am honored to meet such a brave princess as you." Lisa smiled at being called a princess, and for a moment, her eyes sparkled with a hint of the girl she had been before cancer took over her life. "I have something for you," Lisa whispered. With great effort, she reached under her pillow and pulled out a small handmade bracelet. It was made of colorful beads and had a tiny charm in the shape of a crown. "I made this for you," Lisa said. "Too, Kate. It took me 2 weeks because my hands shake now, but I wanted you to have something to remember me by." Kate accepted the bracelet with tears streaming down her face. She could no longer maintain her royal composure as she looked at this dying child who had spent her precious energy making a gift for someone she had never met. "Lisa, this is the most beautiful bracelet I have ever seen," Kate said, her voice breaking. "I will wear it always, and every time I look at it I will think of you." Lisa's breathing became more labored, and her mother stood up to check on her. "She gets tired very easily now," her mother explained, "but she has been so excited about today." William leaned closer to Lisa's bed. "Lisa, I want you to know that you are the bravest person I have ever met. You have taught me more about courage in the past few minutes than I have learned in my entire life." Lisa's eyes began to close, but she managed to whisper, "Will you pray for me?" Both Kate and William nodded, and Kate said, "We will pray for you every day. And we will ask everyone we know to pray for you too." As they prepared to leave Lisa's room, her mother walked them to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said with tears in her eyes. This has been the happiest day Lisa has had in months. She will talk about this visit for as long as she is able. Kate hugged Lisa's mother tightly, both women crying openly now. Please tell Lisa that she has changed our lives, Kate said. She has shown us what real strength looks like. As they left Lisa's room, Kate and William were both struggling to hold back their emotions. They had met many sick children during their royal duties, but nothing had prepared them for the raw courage and selflessness they had witnessed today. Dr. Morrison was waiting for them in the hallway, and she could see that both Kate and William were emotionally overwhelmed. I know this is difficult, she said gently, but there is one more room I would like you to see. It is our most special room, and there is a child there who has been asking to meet you for a very long time. Dr. Morrison led Kate and William down a quiet hallway to the very end of the intensive care unit. The walls here were painted with the softest colors Kate had ever seen. Gentle blues and pale yellows that seemed to glow in the dim lighting. She could hear classical music playing very softly from somewhere nearby, creating an atmosphere of peace and calm. This is our most special room, Dr. Morrison said, her hand resting on the door handle. Call it the angel room. The children who stay here are fighting the biggest battles of their lives. And we do everything we can to make their time as comfortable and beautiful as possible. Kate felt her heart pounding as they stood outside the door. She had been emotionally drained by every child they had met today. She was not sure she had the strength to face another heartbreaking situation. William sensed her hesitation and took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze of support. The child you are about to meet is very special to all of us here, Dr. Morrison continued. His name is James, and he is 10 years old. He has been in this room for 6 weeks now, and the doctors have told his family that his time with us is very limited. Dr. Morrison paused and looked at both Kate and William with serious eyes. I want you to know that you do not have to go. And if you feel it is too much, James is very sick, and seeing him might be difficult for you. Kate straightened her shoulders and took a deep breath. These children deserve to be seen and acknowledged, she said quietly. If James wants to meet us, then we want to meet him. Dr. Morrison smiled with admiration for Kate's courage, then slowly opened the door to reveal the most peaceful room Kate had ever seen. The walls were covered with beautiful murals of clouds and stars, and soft lights created the feeling of being in a magical fairyland. But what caught Kate's attention immediately was the small figure lying in the bed in the center of the room. James was completely bald from his treatments. His thin body seemed almost lost in the large hospital bed. But despite his frail appearance, he was sitting up slightly, and when he saw them enter, his face broke into the brightest smile Kate had ever seen. I knew you would come, James said, in a voice that was weak but filled with joy. I have been waiting for you for so long. Kate and William approached his bed slowly, both of them fighting back tears at the sight of this brave little boy. James was surrounded by handmade cards and letters from children all over the world who had heard his story and wanted to send him their love. Look at all these beautiful cards, Kate said, sitting down in the chair beside James's bed. Must have friends everywhere. James nodded proudly. Kids from 20 different countries have written to me. My nurse reads me 3 letters every day, and some of them are really funny. One boy from Canada sent me a picture of his pet hamster wearing a tiny hat. William was amazed by James's positive attitude despite his obvious illness. Tell me about your favorite letter, William said. Pulling up another chair, James reached carefully toward his bedside table and picked up a folded piece of paper. This one is from a girl named Sophie in Scotland. She is 8 years old, and she has the same kind of cancer as me. But she is getting better now, and she wrote to tell me to never give up hope. Kate listened as James read parts of Sophie's letter out loud. The 8-year-old girl had written about her own treatments, her fears, and her dreams for the future. But most importantly, she had written to encourage James to keep fighting. Sophie says that even when the medicine makes us feel sick, we have to remember that our bodies are learning how to be strong again, James read. She says that every day we wake up is a victory, even if it does not feel like one. As James continued reading, Kate noticed that his breathing was becoming more difficult. A nurse quietly entered the room to check his oxygen levels and adjust his medication, but James waved her away politely. "I do not want to waste time with medical stuff right now," James said with determination. "I want to talk to the prince." "And princess?" James looked directly at Kate with eyes that seemed much older than his 10 years. "I have been thinking about what I want to say to you for weeks," he said. "I want to thank you for coming here and caring about kids like us." Kate felt tears starting to flow down her cheeks as she listened to this incredible child. "James, you do not need to thank us. Meeting you and all the other children today has been the most important thing we have ever done." James smiled and reached out his small hand to touch Kate's arm. "I know you are sad because we are sick," he said softly. "But I want you to know that being here has taught me things that healthy kids might never learn." William leaned forward, curious about what this young boy had discovered during his time in the hospital. "What kinds of things have you learned, James?" "I learned that love is the most powerful medicine," James said with absolute certainty. "I learned that every single day is a gift, even the hard days. And I learned that when people care about you, you can be brave even when you are scared." James paused to catch his breath, then continued. "I also learned that it is okay to cry sometimes, and it is okay to be afraid, as long as you do not let those feelings stop you from finding joy in small things." Kate was openly sobbing now, no longer able to maintain any pretense of royal composure. This 10-year-old boy was teaching her lessons about life that no amount of education or training could have provided. Kate said through her tears. "You are the wisest and bravest person I have ever met. You have changed my life today." James smiled and closed his eyes for a moment, clearly tired from their conversation. When he opened them again, he looked at both Kate and William with deep affection. "Will you promise me something?" James asked quietly. "Anything," William said immediately. "Promise me that you will remember all of us here when you go back to your regular lives. Promise me that you will tell other people about kids who are sick, so they will care about us too." Both Kate and William promised James that they would never forget him or any of the children they had met that day. As they prepared to leave, James gave them each a small toy angel that he had kept by his bedside. "These angels will remind you that love never dies," James said with a peaceful smile. "Even when our bodies get tired, the love we share keeps going forever." Kate and William left the hospital that evening, forever changed by their experience. They had come expecting to bring comfort to sick children, but instead, those children had taught them the most important lessons of their lives, about courage, hope, and the power of human love.